Welcome to the Colorado Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, Brian Caldwell and I are joined by Nancy Judge, president of the Evergreen Chamber. Brian here is the chairman of the board of the Evergreen Chamber, and I here at Shoot Social am a new member of the board as well. Welcome to the show, Nancy.
Thank you very much.
We'll kind of start right off with a lot of chambers of commerce. They're quite varied in how many events they have, how many members they have. And I've noticed from my friends across the country, when I talk about my chamber here, that you guys do the most events, you have a ton of members, you have an awesome staff. What do you think makes you so unique and successful as a chamber?
I think a lot of it stems from the fact that Evergreen is just kind of a unique community. So to get here, you have to come up I-70 and kind of leave the city behind, right? And so I think people who live up here even love that disconnectedness. So there's a lot of people who live up here but work down the hill. But for the small business owners who live and work up here, they really are disconnected. Now, add in the fact that we are an unincorporated county. So we don't have a mayor. We don't have a town council or anything along those lines. So I think as a result of that, the chamber acts as that force that kind of pulls people together, that gives them a common focus, and so we put on various events to kind of continually bring those people together. Connecting and people buying from people is still a thing, so we want to provide those opportunities to make that happen.
Sometimes I describe you as kind of like the de facto mayor around here for businesses, since there's not a ton of other resources. We're not an official city.
It's either Nancy or the dog. What's the dog's name?
Chuck is the actual mayor, but there has not been an election in quite a few years.
Oh, he's just sitting there.
So
We need term limits on dogs for mayor of Evergreen.
But Chuck's the perfect mayor. I'm happy to serve him.
So Nancy, describe, you mentioned a little bit about the community, but is this a bedroom community now? Is it retirees? Is it more, younger people coming in? Who are the businesses servicing up here, in Evergreen, and what kind of businesses do you see up here?
So I think there's definitely been a shift since the pandemic. A lot of people across the country, not even in Colorado or up here in our foothills, wanted to get out of cities, wanted to be outside more, be where they could recreate, live, and work all in the same. So many businesses, even large corporations, allowed people to just work from home. While some of that has gone back to what we used to live in pre-pandemic times, there's still a lot more working from home. So I think Evergreen is certainly one of those communities that benefited because of the amount of open space. Don't get me wrong, the census will show you that our population is aging. We're not getting younger as an aggregate. But that's also not to say that there are not younger people and younger families moving into the community, which I've enjoyed getting to know some of them, and I think that they are bringing in some new energy into the community. So that's been fun. But I think we still are a community that has an older population. There are a lot of people in Evergreen that have lived here for 15, 20 plus years. And they have raised their families here. Their kids have gone off and gone to other places, and the parents still consider Evergreen home.
Now, does this community serve other local towns? Is this a larger mountain community that will the businesses draw from maybe up by Bailey Pine? I mean, do you feel like that's part of your reach?
So we are the Evergreen Area Chamber of Commerce. So we do have members who are in Golden, Lakewood, Wheat Ridge, so further down the hill, but also Idaho Springs, Conifer, Bailey, Pine. So yes, I think to your question, I think Evergreen has more of a town center with the downtown Evergreen than say a Conifer does. Certainly more so than a Bailey or Pine. But I think that we also have it's a larger geography as well, and more businesses.
Okay.
So yes, I think we do.
And I'm sure as a chamber president, there's always new things to do. There's always more emails, new events you could do. How do you break down your limited time as a chamber president versus delegate to your team?
So the first thing I would say is that when we do an event, we always go back to our mission statement of yes, this may serve the community, but first and foremost, is it going to serve our business members? We are a membership organization. We're a 501c6, not a C3. And so a C6 is a membership organization. So as far as how we break out, my staff includes an office manager. Kelly is the one that keeps us all on track and that train moving down the tracks. Luca is my marketing manager, and she is reaching out to our members to make sure they're taking advantage of some of their benefits that they have. She handles all of our social media. She handles any of our flyers or printed material. So she's involved with a lot of those details. Courtney is our membership coordinator and sponsorship manager. So she handles our events from a sponsorship perspective. So, and it's not just a matter of selling the sponsorship, it's a matter of, is the sponsorship going to help your business grow? So we're always looking to create sponsorships that will help our business members get out there into the community, to the part of the community that's of interest to them. So is the member a B2B type of business, or are they a business to community type business? So that's always in the background. And then Tara Emch came on with us this year. She is going to be handling all of our events. She's the event manager. She's our event planner and all the logistics, all those details. So, fair question is, so what am I doing these days?
No Mai Tais on the beach.
That was my next question.
Exactly.
What does the president do?
So my role is to make sure everyone's got all these different pieces kind of working together, because you need if you're going to sell or sponsorship, you need to make sure we deliver on that. So making sure that Courtney and Luca are meeting and kind of facilitating and making sure all of that works. I work with Tara to make sure all the event logistics get kind of everything comes off as smoothly as possible and to the nth degree. We like to make sure that we do the best events around. I also do the work of interfacing with the county. So as we've already mentioned, we're unincorporated. We have no local government up here. We report to Jefferson County down the hill. And so that's my responsibility to maintain those relationships so that if a business owner has a problem with that I can intercede on their behalf, that the chamber has a positive reputation with all of those offices at the county level, from the county manager to our county commissioners to planning and zoning to the liquor board, any and all of those. So I do a lot of that kind of work, as well as getting involved in bigger initiatives that as a community we need to look at, whether that's workforce housing, whether that's internships for our area high school students to be able to make sure they're prepared for what comes after high school, to planning our 150th celebration, or what we like to call our sesquicentennial.
I'm going to let you say that word.
I was going to say, on top of all of those things that you're doing, I love that you're still accessible, your staff is so accessible. I know from other chambers across the country that I've heard, they don't respond to emails. It's hard to get times. They're booked out for forever. But even though you're doing all of those things, you respond to emails, you're available to meet. So I don't know how you balance all of that.
You're here doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
There's 24 hours in a day. Let's use them all.
So I was going to ask you mentioned everything you do. What are Nancy's top 3 chamber activities or events? If you had to pick top 3.
Of things that I like to do?
That you like to do for your businesses. Just the top 3 events in your mind.
I consider it's not necessarily an event, it's an ongoing, but the top thing I would say, because I consider this an absolute honor, is to be able to make connections that if you tell me who your target client is, if I can create a connection for you that in the event will help grow your business. That's my main focus. And so to be able to do that, I need to understand what each of our businesses are doing and who their target clients are. So I love spending one-on-one time with our members, and a lot of that happens at our events, our monthly breakfasts or our cocktail hours or whatever. I have an email in my inbox right now from we did a cocktail hour Tuesday night, and one of the guys, he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry I took you away from talking to those few ladies you were talking to." And my response that I'm going to send to him this morning is, "No, that's my job, to walk around and make sure I am talking to everyone, because I want to understand what your pains are, but also what your goals are."
And you remembered my business right from day one. I joined. You knew who I was. The next time I showed up, you knew what I did. You're able to send referrals out. I don't know if you got flashcards or some sort of like extra memory gum that you chew every day, but you remember hundreds of members on a first name basis, what they do. It's not like join and then I got to keep reminding Nancy, like, "Oh, I'm Kate again from the past 5 events that I was at, and I do video like the previous 5 times." It was like right from day one. So. Yeah.
That is something we work on, but again, we consider it an honor. Anyone that joins as is a member of ours, is part of our family, our team, and that's our job, is to understand what it is that we can do for you. So that's first and foremost what I love doing.
The political answer there.
But
I wanted to hear I love women's in business.
Okay, so on our events, so here's I'll
or
give
the
you
breakfast.
I'll give you a little insight. When it comes to the events, we love planning them. The actual day of the event, we've already moved on to whatever's next on the calendar. So the day of the actual event itself is really not the highlight for us. It's more the planning and coming up with ideas, as we call them in the office, our shower thoughts. And all of us have them, and so we send texts off in the group, and then we talk about them and how can we implement, and so that's that generation of ideas, and it is the fun part for us.
And I want to take a step back to, you're talking about your staff earlier. A big challenge that a lot of business owners run into, especially in Evergreen or the Foothills area, is good staff members. Mm-hmm. How did you go about finding the staff members? Did you have to go through a few hires to find the right fits? Or, kind of tell us a little bit about how you find such great talent up here.
So when I took over this position in September of 2020, Courtney was already at the chamber office. So I inherited her, and I am always eternally grateful that I did that. I remember being at a meeting that the chamber, because I was a chamber member for one of our area nonprofits before I took over this role. And I remember being at a meeting, and that's actually in February, so that of that year. And so that's when I first met Courtney. And I just was like, wow, she's got a lot of energy. And so
just a little bit.
So when I took over in September, I was glad she was there, because I felt like I knew someone, right? The rest of the staff has changed over. And yes, to your question, Kate, it has changed over a few times, because sometimes it's not the right person, and you take someone just to kind of fill that spot so that you're not, because I can't do everything. I remember when we've been in between marketing people in the past, I would literally, wear down the carpet from my office to the marketing office to because all the passwords and logins are saved on that laptop. So I would run over to that laptop to do some of the work and try to fill some of the holes. But the team that we have now is phenomenal. We've been fortunate to find people who recognize the value that the chamber provides and want to be part of the team, and think that what we do is fun and rewarding work. So while we've got some of us who are on the older end of the age scale.
29?
Why are you pointing at me?
No, I'm not. I'm pointing to myself, really.
I still feel young.
But we love having Luca, who is one of the newer members on our team. She definitely brings down the age of our office, which we're grateful for, because she has such new ideas and a fresh perspective on ways to look at things. And so I've just so enjoyed seeing her blossom, but also seeing the ideas that she brings to her team.
And how did you find, when you have those job lists and you needed to hire, did you put them on just LinkedIn or some of those job boards? Did you reach out to the county? Where did kind of those employees find out about the job that you'd recommend other business owners also look for if they're trying to find talent?
Well, I don't know if I want to share because then no, okay. So no, I've not listed them particularly anywhere,
Okay.
and so one of the things that I think that is very valuable in a chamber staff person, myself included, is that you are from or live in this community, because what we do is a 24/7 job. So on the weekend, if I'm not at an event, I might be out shopping or running my errands from my family, right? And so I'm seeing the business owner of the store that I'm going into, or I'm shopping for a gift for one of my girlfriends or a family member, and so I'm shopping local. So it's just another way to stay in touch with our business owners, to always be out and moving in the community. So that is one of the key things for us, is to find people who are local. I would say our hires have primarily been through word of mouth. So Courtney knew Kelly through the Southwest community. They're both connected to the Southwest community. Luca used to work at Evergreen Parks and Rec. She did an internship with them one summer. And so after she graduated, we were able to get connected through our close partnership with Parks and Rec. And Tara, she was the executive director for Evergreen Players for 19 years and lives and raised her family here in the community. So it's we've really been fortunate to find such great people.
Yeah, you've done a great job building a team over there. So employees are one challenge, but you got a lot of businesses up here. About how many members do we have in the Evergreen Chamber? And then where's the focus of the group as far as bringing in maybe new membership versus retaining current members? And how do you do that? Because so many chambers, right, are struggling. Losing members, not bringing in enough revenue. How do you balance that, and what's your focus, and what's the team's focus?
So there are chambers that are closing across the country. I'm part of a chamber executives social media group, Facebook group, and so I see that and hear that all the time. So it is a balance. One of the things that we've done this year is to have Courtney be focused solely, specifically on members and onboarding those new members, and I'm more focused on bringing on new members. I'm a firm believer that if we're doing the right things for our membership, our current membership, that other business owners are going to want to be part of this group. So that's my focus, is laying that foundation so that who we currently have are seeing the value and the benefit of being a chamber member, and that others will kind of come on as a result of that. So we've kind of broken it up a little bit as far as responsibility. Within the office, we currently have about 500 members, and would I like to grow? Sure. But I always want to do that with forethought, and to make sure that we've got the processes in place so that no one gets left behind.
It'd be hard to fill up a cup if there's a hole in the bottom. Like,
right.
if you only focus on acquisition, but then people leave because they join and they're like hearing crickets,
Yep.
Then that's worthless. But I think with retention, ever since I joined, like, there's a lot of things going on, new businesses. And I also feel like there's something about the momentum of the majority of businesses here are in the chamber, unlike some other places in the country where you might have 5% of the businesses. There's no momentum or not quite the incentive to join, but I feel like most of the big businesses, you go to their storefront and there's the Evergreen Chamber logo right there as you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just walking down the hallway, and you could see them walking down the hallway here at your office. So
Yeah.
Yep, a lot of members. So with these members, you guys help out a lot. What are like some of the big business issues they bring to you? Whether it's an existing business or maybe a new business opening, what do you see as some of the challenges the business owners come to you and say, hey, Nancy, we need your help as the chamber president? And how do you help?
So the issues kind of fall into a couple that we've mentioned. One is the staffing side of things. The second has to do with relations with the county, getting something done. Everything is taking so much longer. I was talking to a woman who came to a networking event on Tuesday evening who is not a current member. And she said, yeah, I was hoping to open last June. Now I'm hoping to open in February. Wow. And so I said, well, what's been the problem? And so I started talking with her, and I said, I wish you would have reached out to me. I would have been happy to have helped. So sometimes it's just making sure that they know that we're a resource that they can take advantage of. And then there's just kind of some basic kinds of things of when someone's going to be opening a new business, for them, if they're not, excuse me, from this area, understanding what unincorporated means, what that means from a sales tax perspective.
Okay.
We constantly get questions coming into us about, what's the local sales tax? What do I have to charge? That kind of thing. So we're always answering those kinds of questions. I will have business owners that will share with me, I want to open a physical storefront. Do you know of any space that's open? We're looking to expand. Do you know of a bigger space that we might be able to find? So those kinds of things. And as I said, then it's a matter of I'll reach out to some of our commercial real estate businesses who are members and talk with them about what kind of space they have that's coming available or is available, and see if I can kind of create a connection between the two of them if there's a fit.
One of the things that I've found here in the mountain community when I first moved and opened my business is it takes a little bit to show people that you're not somebody from Denver that's just up here for the weekend trying to schmooze people out of business. But then once you're in the community, people know that you're local. They see you at the grocery store a few times. Mm-hmm. You've been to a few chamber events. That word of mouth, especially in Evergreen, is quite powerful because everybody's talking, everybody knows each other. And once you have that momentum, your name kind of spreads. What advice would you have to somebody who's looking to open a business in Evergreen or the surrounding Foothills area?
What I would say is that people still do buy from people. So if you are going to be a business owner who is in your business on a day-to-day basis, behind the counter or whatever, lean into that. And make those connections with the people who do come in, but also always be looking outward. Always be looking for ways to increase the number in your network. I think it's easy to throw out some social media posts and think that's going to fix everything. I would say that may not be so much the case up here in the mountain community. So continually putting yourself out there. And that may not be a comfort zone for some business owners. I mean, they open the business because they like to do X, not because they like to go out and meet and talk to people. But then you've got people like Brian who loves to talk to people.
No.
So creating those kinds of connections, but I think of you, and actually you're a great example of this, Brian. There are business owners who may not love to get out there, and let's say they're in a home service that they provide. If they create a connection with you, either let's say through your leads group or just attending chamber events, you are great at referring out those partners when you've got a client who needs that kind of assistance. So in a way, you kind of act as a mini chamber. So, when you're done with insurance, if you want my job, I think that would be a great progression for you. So what I would say is always look for ways to continually build that network so that you do have people. We had a business join just within the last couple of weeks, and I asked him. I said, "Why are you joining the chamber?" Because he's not a new business. He's been up in this area for a while, and I've seen his social media. He does sponsored posts on the social media up here, and so I was just kind of curious. And he said, our offices are down in Littleton, and what they do is outside work. He said, but that's just because the season is longer down there. He said, my family and we live here in Evergreen, but people don't see us as an Evergreen company, and so they're not as quick to use him. And so I appreciated his forthrightness, right, in sharing that with me, that's what his pain is. And so what we'll do for him now is make sure that the message that gets out is this is a family that is embedded here in our community and giving back probably in some ways that maybe haven't gotten out there, so that people do feel that comfort level. Because you're absolutely right, Kate. There is that reality of people do like to use local businesses up here.
Absolutely. So switching gears, because we're coming to the end of this,
okay.
You wear one more kind of important hat that we haven't talked about yet. And she knows what I'm going to talk about. Evergreen is a beautiful town. We got a lake, we got mountains, hiking, trail, biking, all of that. You also kind of act as our tourism office. And so what kind of activities do you and your staff do to drive tourism? Because this is day trip community from Denver, sometimes a weekend overnight community at some of our beautiful bed and breakfasts and lodges up here. What do you do to help support those businesses?
That's a great question. So we are the destination marketing organization on record for Evergreen, the Visitor Information Center. But we don't receive any funding for that. So our business is to be a chamber, and that is first and foremost our first responsibility. So we recognize that there are a lot of people that come up here on the weekends, for example, and our office is closed. We're Monday through Friday. So one of the things that we did a few years ago is to create an app called Everything Evergreen, so that our business members can be represented in a way that tourists would find useful. So to find restaurants, we've got all the area open spaces in there. And when you go into that, Matthews Park or Elk Meadow Park or Alderfer, whatever, we've got the trail map right there so that you can have it on your phone in your hand while you're going through a hike and you don't end up somewhere you shouldn't be. So that was one thing that we released a few years ago. Every year we work with a partner who puts together the Explore Evergreen Guide, and we print 20,000 of those and go through 20,000 every year.
Wow.
Those not only have fun articles about some of the events and things happening in Evergreen, including a yearly event calendar, but all of our business members are listed in that because copies do get mailed to all of the residences in Evergreen as well. So it's for tourists as well as residents. We've got some of those outside our door that you can access 24/7, so that if we're not there, if we're off doing chamber business, it's a resource that we keep available. We do a community map so that people who are looking to move into the community, it's an old traditional street map. There are people that still like those, so we do those every year. We've built out our content library of doing videos that focus on things like all the coffee shops in Evergreen, all the wonderful places to stay in our community, the bars and wineries that some of the fun evening spots to enjoy, places and fun activities to do with your kids in the cold weather, kind of where we are now. We've got all of this content built up, and we are continually putting those out on our social media, but boosting those down the hill to encourage people to come up. We have a presence on Colorado.com, which is probably the first place people out of state come, through some banner ads that we've got there. We've got on the digital board down at the Denver Convention Center, we've got a 15-second video that's going on right now highlighting the fact that Evergreen is a short 20-minute drive from downtown. You're not going to sit in hours of traffic, and you can still ski and snow tube and ice skate and snowshoe and all the winter activities that people know and love about Colorado. We want them to know you don't have to sit in 2 hours of traffic. So we're putting all those out in places where tourists are going to be, so that they can see us and think of us as a destination to visit.
Well, you got a lot on your plate, and thanks so much for coming in to tell us a little bit more about the chamber and how you run it. I encourage everybody listening to at least show up to an event. You don't have to be a member to go to some of the networking events. And if it seems like a good fit, from day one, I was joining the chamber. Brian was as well. And there's so many great businesses here that make that membership worth it. And so for everybody listening, you can go to evergreenchamber.org to look at events, to look at sponsoring things, or to join the chamber. This podcast is also sponsored by Brian Caldwell from the Caldwell Insurance Agency. I found that Brian is one of the most knowledgeable insurance agents out there, and somebody that you don't just get a quote from and buy and then never hear from again. His staff is reaching out, helping you through the claims process, making sure you have the right coverage here, or if you can save money there. Great office staff. And this is also sponsored by me here at the Shoot Social Studio in Evergreen for podcasts and content creation. And if you're interested in that, you can visit my website as well. Thank you, Nancy, so much for being on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. Appreciate it.